Welcome to everybody. We are very happy to welcome you for this conference on the airport areas. How can they be a leverage to urban development and real estate development? I am very happy to introduce everybody. I just want to say that this conference is organized by Agence Régionale de Développement, ARD, by Établissement Public d'Aménagement Plaine de France, which I'm heading, and by ADP Aéroport de Paris. I'm very happy to introduce the eminent speakers, Mr. Kasim Reed, which is the mayor of, who is the mayor of Atlanta. Atlanta is has the biggest airport in the world, 90 million passengers a year. Am I right?
95.
95, even bigger. Mr. Jérôme Coumet, who's deputy mayor of the 13th district of Paris. Mr. John Kasarda, who's a professor at University of North Carolina. He's the father of the concept of Aérotropolis, which means airport area, airport cities. He will explain that to us very soon. And Mr. Deflou, who works for the Seine Agency Development. We will talk on behalf of Mr. Gérard Eude, who's still on the plane, and he will talk about the Grand Roissy. So I suggest, as Mr. Coumet has a constraint at 6, he will speak first. He will speak about business tourism in Paris, how business tourism is necessary for Paris and necessary also for Charles de Gaulle's Roissy. Then Mr. John Kasarda will give an overview of the concept of airport city, how they are implemented all over the world. Then Mr. Kasim Reed will talk about Atlanta and the hub of Atlanta, how a mayor like a big city with a big airport can make the most of this amazing asset. And then we finish by the Grand Roissy and talk about the governance and the unification of project schemes and governance in Grand Roissy. Now, Mr. Coumet, you can speak. Thank you.
Monsieur le maire Kasim Reed, monsieur le professeur John Kasarda, mes distingués collègues du Val d'Oise, de Seine-Saint-Denis, de Seine-et-Marne, monsieur Damien Robert, directeur général de l'EPA Plaine de France, chers amis, je vous prie d'abord de bien vouloir excuser l'absence de Jean-Bernard Brault, maire adjoint de Paris en charge du tourisme, qui a été bloqué à Paris en raison des conditions météo un petit peu exceptionnelles en ce moment. Il m'a demandé de vous délivrer le discours qu'il avait préparé. Et c'est un grand plaisir de participer aujourd'hui à cette conférence franco-américaine sur un thème tout à fait innovant, les places aéroportuaires comme moteur du développement économique et du développement immobilier.
Mayor Reed, Professor John Kasarda, my distinguished colleagues from Seine-et-Marne, Val d'Oise and Seine-Saint-Denis, Mr. President of Paris Region Development Agency, Mr. Damien Robert, General Manager of the Plaine de France Urban Planning Agency, dear friends. I wish first to excuse Jean-Bernard Brault, Deputy Mayor of Paris in charge of tourism. He's stuck in Paris because of very difficult weather conditions. And so he asked me to deliver his speech. It is indeed my great pleasure to be part today of this French-American conference on a quite innovative theme, presented for the first time at a MIPIM conference, the airport areas as economic and real estate engine.
Alors, monsieur le professeur Kasarda vous en parlera mieux que moi, mais juste quelques mots pour parler des aéroports dans le monde entier, qui ne sont plus simplement de simples infrastructures de transport, mais des centres économiques autour desquels une véritable nouvelle économie est en train d'émerger. Le maire d'Atlanta va illustrer ce nouveau phénomène avec le cas très intéressant de sa ville, dont l'histoire et le succès sont si intimement liés au transport et plus particulièrement au transport aérien. Et sur ce point, Paris, dont il faut souligner au passage que la devise, je vous rappelle, fluctuat net mergitur, est proche de celle d'Atlanta, qui est résurgence, Paris et le Grand Paris ont d'intéressantes similarités avec Atlanta. Et grâce à sa position au carrefour de routes terrestres et fluviales, au centre d'une riche terre agricole, Paris a été, depuis des temps très reculés, l'une des villes de France les plus importantes, avant de devenir sa capitale, au temps des Capétiens au Xe siècle. Et elle fut donc au centre d'un carrefour commercial dès le Moyen-Âge, avec des foires internationales, et puis après, avec toute une série de vagues commerciales successives.
As Professor Kasarda will soon brilliantly demonstrate, the airports around the world are not anymore simple transport infrastructures, but real economic centers around which a new economy is emerging. Mayor Reed will illustrate this new phenomenon with a very interesting case of Atlanta, whose history and success is so intimately linked to transport, and especially air transport. On this respect, Paris, by the way, whose motto "Fluctuat nec mergitur" is close to Atlanta's one, resurgence, has interesting similarities with Atlanta. Thanks to its privileged position at the crossroads between land and river trade routes in the heart of a very rich agricultural region, Paris has been, since very early times, one of France's main cities and its permanent capital since the Capetians. As soon as the Middle Ages era, Paris was home to international trade fairs and is still today.
Alors aujourd'hui, Paris est la capitale mondiale du tourisme et aussi singulièrement du tourisme d'affaires. La France est la première destination touristique au monde avec 82 millions de touristes en 2011. Paris en accueillant pour sa part 29 millions. Le secteur du tourisme représente 7% du PNB et 500 000 emplois en Île-de-France, c'est-à-dire 10% du nombre des salariés, 13% à Paris même. Le tourisme d'affaires avec 1000 congrès et 400 salons internationaux en 2011 a généré plus de 4 milliards de retombées économiques et 45% des nuitées hôtelières à Paris. C'est donc considérable. Et je veux souligner, Monsieur le maire, que les Américains sont nos premiers clients. Cette position de leader de Paris est due à plusieurs facteurs, au sein desquels on peut citer à la fois la richesse de son architecture, de son héritage culturel, ainsi que la qualité de ses infrastructures de télécom et de transport. Et comme c'est bien connu, c'est le volet international qui croît le plus vite dans l'industrie touristique, et plus spécialement les pays émergents, les BRIC. Pour accueillir ces clients, il faut avant tout des aéroports attractifs. Ici, à Paris, nous bénéficions d'un atout considérable, avec 2 aéroports internationaux exploités par Aéroport de Paris, Paris-Charles de Gaulle, le premier hub européen avec 62 millions de passagers, et Paris-Orly avec 27 millions de passagers, totalisant ainsi en 2012 un trafic record de 89 millions de passagers. L'ouverture de nouveaux satellites, le satellite S3 en 2007, puis le satellite AC, le satellite 4 en 2012, a donné à Charles de Gaulle une capacité totale de 80 millions de passagers avec des possibilités ultérieures de développement. Et Paris-Charles de Gaulle dispose également d'une gare TGV combinant ainsi harmonieusement les correspondances longs et moyens courriers. Comme vous pouvez le voir, les aéroports de Paris ne sont pas saturés et c'est une vraie chance pour Paris et la région Paris-Île-de-France. Évidemment, je parle quand il n'y a pas d'averse de neige.
Nowadays, Paris is the world capital for tourism and business events. France is the first destination in the world in 2011 with 82 million tourists, of which Paris welcomed 29 million. The tourism sector weighs 7% of GDP and accounts for over 500,000 jobs in the Paris region, or 10% of the salaried workforce. In Paris, it's even 13%. The business events, with some 1,000 conventions and 400 international exhibitions, has generated more than 4 billion euros economic benefits and 45% of the 68 million hotel nights. It's quite considerable. And the Americans, Mr. Mayor, are the first customers in Paris. The premium ranking for Paris is due to several factors, of which the variety of its architectural and historical heritage and the quality of its infrastructures in IT and transports. As we all know, the fastest growing part in the tourism industry is international, and especially coming from the emerging countries. To welcome these clients, one needs first and foremost attractive airports. Here in Paris, we benefit from a real asset with the 2 international airports operated by Aéroports de Paris, Paris-Charles de Gaulle, the first European hub, with 62 million passengers, and Paris-Orly, with 27 million passengers, thus totalizing a record traffic of 89 million passengers in 2012. The opening of new satellites, the satellites 3 in 2007, the satellites AC and S4 in 2012, provide a total capacity for Charles de Gaulle of 80 million passengers with further possibilities of development. And Paris-Charles de Gaulle welcomes also a high-speed train station, thus combining efficiently medium and long-haul connections. As you can see, Paris airports, unlike other European airports, are not saturated. This is a real chance for Paris and Paris region, especially when it doesn't snow.
Alors les infrastructures aéroportuaires ne sont pas seulement des portes d'entrée internationales, ce sont aussi des contributeurs tout à fait stratégiques à l'économie parisienne et francilienne. Les aéroports de Paris créent 30 milliards d'euros de valeur ajoutée, soit environ 6% de la valeur ajoutée de l'Île-de-France et 2% de celle de la France. Ils sont aussi fortement créateurs d'emplois, 340 300 emplois sont générés par l'activité aéroportuaire. Ces chiffres montrent que les aéroports parisiens sont devenus de véritables moteurs économiques, suscitant l'implantation d'activités liées indirectement au transport aérien. Depuis approximativement une dizaine d'années, un développement économique très dynamique a lieu dans le Grand Roissy. Le Grand Roissy est d'ailleurs reconnu comme le cluster des échanges dans le projet du Grand Paris. Gérard Eude va décrire dans quelques minutes le Grand Roissy et son extraordinaire dynamisme économique. Je voudrais donc juste mettre l'accent sur quelques projets en cours dans le secteur de l'industrie touristique et j'en terminerai par là. Pour commencer, le très connu parc des expositions de Villepinte, qui est à 5 minutes de Paris-Charles de Gaulle et à 25 minutes de Paris, c'est le plus grand centre d'exposition en France avec 242 000 m². Il accueille les salons les plus connus en Europe et dans le monde entier comme Maisons et Objets notamment. Et chaque année, il reçoit 1,5 million de visiteurs. Le parc va s'étendre sur 70 hectares, soit une surface additionnelle de 150 000 m², ce qui en fera l'un des 10 plus grands parcs d'exposition mondiaux. En second lieu, l'International Trade Center, qui sera un véritable complexe intégré, accueillant centres de congrès, centres d'affaires, commerces et bureaux, unique en son genre en Europe, programmé pour ouvrir en 2015. Cet équipement permettra d'accueillir 1 million de visiteurs chaque année, avec un centre de congrès de 6 000 personnes, des lieux d'exposition qui totalisent là aussi 85 000 m², 7 hôtels, ainsi que des restaurants et des commerces. En troisième lieu, le projet Europa City, programmé sur un site de 80 hectares entre les aéroports de Paris-Charles de Gaulle et Paris-Le Bourget, sur la ligne de métro du Grand Paris Express. Cet équipement comprendra 500 commerces, un auditorium de 2000 places, un parc de loisirs. Il est prévu qu'Europa City accueille 5 millions de visiteurs par an. L'objectif d'Europa City est double: représenter le mode de vie européen et devenir une nouvelle centralité métropolitaine pour le commerce, le loisir et la culture. En quatrième lieu, un tout nouveau centre commercial, Aéroville, qui est développé par Unibail sur l'aéroport Paris-Charles de Gaulle et à 5 minutes du parc des expositions de Villepinte. Il ouvrira en octobre prochain, en octobre 2013, et sera un des plus grands centres commerciaux dans la région parisienne, avec 80 000 m² de surface commerciale. Et finalement, avec aujourd'hui près de 9 000 chambres d'hôtel et dans un futur proche 12 000, donc de 9 000 à 12 000 chambres, le Grand Roissy est le deuxième pôle hôtelier de la région parisienne après Paris.
Airport infrastructures are not only gateways to the world, they are also a strategic contributors to the Paris region and French economy. Paris airports create 30 billion euros in added value, representing 6% of the Paris region GDP and 2% of France's GDP. They are a job booster. 340,000 jobs are generated by the airport presence. These figures show that Parisian airports have become real economic engines, fostering the localization of air transport-induced activities. Since approximately a decade, an economic surge occurred in the Greater Roissy area that is emerging as a cluster for international exchanges in the Greater Paris project. Gérard Eude and François-Xavier de Flou, in fact, will describe in a few minutes the Greater Roissy area and its amazing economic dynamism. I'd like just to focus on some Greater Roissy ongoing projects in the tourism industry. To begin with, the most famous, the Paris Villepinte Exhibition Center. Located 5 minutes away from Paris Charles de Gaulle and 25 minutes from Paris, it is France's leading center in terms of available surface, more than 2,040 square meters, and 240,000 square meters, and hosts the foremost trade shows in Europe and worldwide, for example, Maisons et Objets. Every year, it receives 1.5 million visitors. The center's expansion project, an extra 70 hectares, representing close to 150,000 square meters in additional exhibition surface, will rank the Paris Nord Villepinte Exhibition Center among the world's top 10 facilities. Second, the International Trade Center will be a genuine 30-hectare integrated business and convention complex, the only one of its kind in Europe. Planned to open in 2015, this facility will ultimately host over 1 million visitors every year, with a convention center of 6,000 participants, a showroom facility, 3 exhibition halls, totalizing 85,000 square meters, 7 hotels, restaurants, offices, and retail space. Third, Europa City project is planned to be built on the 80-hectare site between Paris Charles de Gaulle and the Paris Le Bourget airports on the Greater Paris Express train link. It will include 5,000 shops, a 2,000 seats auditorium, leisure parks, to attract 5 million tourists per year. The aim of the Europa City project is to have a double identity, to represent the European way of life and to become a new metropolitan place for shopping, leisure, and culture. Fourth, a new retail center, Aéroville, developed by Unibail and located on Charles de Gaulle Airport, 5 minutes away from Paris Villepinte International Exhibition Center. Due to open on October this year, Aéroville will be one of the largest shopping malls in the Paris region, with 80,000 square meters in retail space. And finally, with presently 9,000 hotel rooms, and in the near future, 12,000 hotel rooms, the Greater Roissy area is the second largest hotel resort in the Paris region, second to Paris.
Permettez-moi juste de conclure en une phrase pour dire que la ville de Paris résonne maintenant de manière globale à l'intérieur du Grand Paris, avec tous ces projets ambitieux, centrés largement sur la filière du tourisme d'affaires. Et tout ça n'est pas en concurrence, évidemment, avec les projets que Paris porte elle-même, la ville de Paris intramuros. Et ils sont évidemment tout à fait complémentaires avec le dynamisme du Grand Roissy. Je vous remercie.
To conclude, Paris' ambitious projects are definitely centered on the tourism, business tourism, exhibition, and sector. And from my point of view as Deputy Mayor of Paris, these ambitious projects we spoke of in the terms of the Greater Roissy area, are not in competition, but complementary to Paris' offer. And Paris' attractiveness is reinforced by the dynamism of the greater Roissy airport area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kume. Mr. Kasarda, thank you.
Thank you so much. As our moderator said, I was asked to provide an overview of airports as real estate engines, focusing on the airport city and the Aérotropolis and the types of development that are attracted to airport areas. Really, the model is one of transit-oriented development that has shaped urban development, commercial development, business location over the centuries. We know the first great urban centers, commercial concentrations formed around seaports in the 17th century. The 18th century, the backbone of the Industrial Revolution, were rivers and canals, and that type of development associated with it. The 19th century railroads. We have the mayor of Atlanta here, and he knows, but many of you don't know, the original name of Atlanta was Terminus. It's where the railroad went. It was really a logistics center. The 20th century was an automobile century, the shift to highways, the move people and products, trucks as well, tremendous deconcentration of development, 30, 40, 50 kilometers out from the city center. Beginning in the late 1980s and picking up speed in the 1990s and really gaining traction in the 21st century has been this fifth wave of airport-driven development. There are many reasons for it. I don't have time to go into it, but let me give you some highlights of why the 21st century economy will increasingly be aviation-based. Some basic statistics here that were pulled from ACI from the book Aérotropolis. Between 2010 and 2030, worldwide passenger traffic will likely increase from 4.9 billion annually to 13.3 billion. That means that within 17 years, there'll be 36 million people getting on aircraft every day. Many of those will be leisure travelers, tourists that the mayor just mentioned, but increasingly business travelers as producer services, finance, accounting, corporate law, auditing, consulting, marketing. These people are aviation intensive, and even though they might not be located right around the airport, they may be in the downtown or another area, they're dependent on the airport. You hear about the growth of cargo, which has been even faster. It's expected to more than triple. Another term you hear is the new economy, and basically the new economy is made up of products like microelectronics, pharmaceuticals, and life sciences, digitized components, medical instruments, various types of aerospace components, fresh cut flowers, fresh fish. 80, 90, 95% of these move around the world by air. I noticed the head of the Schuylkill Area Development Corporation is here. Fully 40% of all of the flowers in the world go through the Aalsmeer market next to Schiphol Airport. So it's amazing, this connectivity. So today, only 1% of the weight of the world's economy goes by air, but 36% by value. And how do you measure the strength of an economy? Is it its weight or its value? And almost all high-tech supply chains are connected by air cargo. And this is what we call the physical internet. The web won't move a box. Somebody has to pick it, pack it, and ship it. And you have this connectivity. And let me give you an idea of what this physical internet looks like. This is the Apple iPhone 5, where parts and components are produced in 10 countries, assembled in an 11th, and distributed in 12th. This is the nature of today's economy, where you have tremendous geographic dispersion of product components and final assembly and distribution. This physical internet that I mentioned is actually what moves people and products quickly and efficiently around the world, the same way that the internet moves data and information. But business, we know, is a contact sport. We teach at Kenan Flagler Business School, you never consummate a deal until you can look your prospective partner or client directly in the eye. Only then will you know if you're doing the right thing. And we've studied supply chains, B2B, business-to-business supply chains. We find that executives fly to Brazil and to China and to many locations around the world to negotiate these deals. They might be routinized afterwards, but business is a contact sport and will always remain a contact sport. So this physical internet, this route connectivity is absolutely critical. Airports are the routers of the physical internet. And therefore, they become 21st century business magnets as time-critical executives and time-critical products are attracted to the airport area, providing this accessibility, speed, and agility. Connecting customers, enterprise partners, as we heard from the Mayor, tourists, nationally and worldwide. By 2020, 7 years from now, we expect 110 million Chinese to be traveling abroad. Just think if you get 1%, that's 1.1 million. Mayor Bloomberg of New York is excited because he knows they spend about $5,000 each person every time they come. So he's trying to get the visas open, other people to come in to take advantage of that huge foreign exchange. And then there's millions of air travelers. The mayor's airport has, he said, 95 million passengers. So there's commercial needs to be served in the airport and the airport area, as well as the visitors, not just the meet and greeters, but people that come to the airport. As a result of this, new aviation-driven urban forms are evolving. The airport city and greater Aérotropolis. Everyone that has looked at airports today will know that they're no longer airports. They're no longer places that aircraft land and people, passengers and cargo transit. They have, as that second bullet point notes, they become multimodal, all types of transportation converges on them, multifunctional, many activities. They're true enterprises, corporations that generate considerable commercial development within and increasingly well beyond their boundaries. And what we're finding is that virtually all functions of a modern metropolitan center are locating on and immediately around major airport sites, changing them from what was once a city airport, an airport to serve a city, into a airport city itself. So the transformation from a city airport to an airport city has been very powerful. I don't need to go into this. You can go right to your airports in your hometown and see how the shopping mall concepts have been merged into the passenger terminals and increasingly upscale boutiques, higher-end and themed restaurants, fitness, cinemas, museums, regional art, musicians, chapels. Last year I was told there were 550 weddings at Stockholm-Arlanda Airport. Logistics and air cargo, powerful. This is airside, inside the fence, but adjacent to the terminal, sometimes connected to the terminal, are hotels and entertainment complexes, office, retail, convention, exhibition centers, Georgia Conference Center, one of the largest in the world, connected by a people mover to the terminal, and then all the free trade zones and special economic zones and time-sensitive goods processing. So what we're finding today is that the daily consumer population at major airports is larger than that of many mid-sized cities. At the University of North Carolina, we added up last year all the people that visited Disney World, the Grand Canyon, and one of our most popular tourist homes, Graceland, Elvis Presley's home. Everyone that went to Disney World, everyone that went to the Grand Canyon, everyone that went to Graceland, add them all up, 40 million. So more than twice the number went through Atlanta, Hartsfield, Jackson's terminals, then visited Disney World, the Grand Canyon, or Graceland. So it's massive, and they have higher incomes, on average 50% to sometimes 300% higher on average, depending on the airport. Numerous airports have a higher percentage of their revenues now generated from these commercial sources than from aeronautical sources. And this enables them to keep the cost of the airlines down and to meet their facility and infrastructure modernization and expansion needs. But as we look at the engine, it's in point number 3, that rapid commercial development at and around major airports is making them leading urban growth generators as the airport areas become significant employment, shopping, trading, and business destinations in their own right. So the airport area changes from a place of departure to a destination. It's a functional change. We've studied this, an article just came out in Urban Studies with Steve Appold and me. We looked at concentric rings around the 25 busiest U.S. airports, 1 mile out, 2 miles out, 3, 4, 5. We found that within the 5-mile radius, that growth in employment and residences was 2 to 4 times faster than the suburban ring in which the airports were located. So they've really become these business and residential magnets as people who take the jobs don't want long commutes. They want to be near their employment. And we're also finding that airport areas develop their own image, attracting even non-aviation linked businesses. The IKEAs are increasingly locating near airports. Big box retail, factory outlets. What interests me, though, is the Aérotropolis. And that is the airport city's decor, but out, and you have these expressways, highways, rail lines that move out from the airport, and along them we're seeing spines and clusters and nodes of aviation-linked businesses and residential complexes that are forming along these transportation corridors, visibly for the largest airports up to 20 kilometers out, 15 miles out, and our studies have shown significant economic impact up to 60 kilometers out. I don't need to read them. They're right here, everything from the business and technology parks and logistics centers and the information communication technology complexes, the bioscience medical, even higher education campuses. We have a weekend MBA program at Kenan Flagler Business School. We don't offer it at Chapel Hill. We offer it at Dulles Airport in Northern Virginia because people can fly in, have their courses on the weekend, be back home for Sunday dinner. So even education facilities are moving near these major gateways. Of course, hotel, convention, tourism, entertainment centers, amazing airport edge cities. I'll show you a photo later on of Zuidhuis, Amsterdam Zuidhuis, and then Las Colinas, Texas, 4 Fortune 500 world headquarters within 4 miles of Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. New Songdo International Business District, just an incredible instant city being developed next to Incheon International Airport. So just as you have, think of your urban geography or urban economics, a central city and then the rings of commuter-heavy suburbs that form the greater metropolis, you have an airport city, was described before. The development on the airport, immediately around it, and then outwards from the corridors, these strings and clusters of aviation-linked businesses and residential complexes that make up the greater Aérotropolis. Central city, metropolis, airport city, Aérotropolis. So the airport city is not the Aérotropolis. The airport city is the central business district of the Aérotropolis. Here's a schematic of 16 airports, including Charles de Gaulle, that I've been studying now for over 15 years. And none of them look exactly like this, but all of them are beginning to take on forms that are similar to this. I had one person get up from Los Angeles International Airport, the head of the airport. She told me, she said, John, you know, we're not an Aérotropolis. None of it really matches this. No, if you take an aerial photograph, it doesn't, because it opened in 1927, and most of the growth around Los Angeles International occurred in the 1950s, 1960s, and early 1970s, before they knew that what airports were going to be used for in the 21st century. But if you look at where business has been located around LAX in the last 10 years, from 2002 to 2012, it follows this pattern exactly. And I wish I had time to go into the details, but basically the blue-collar functions are segregated from the white-collar functions. Aero lanes and aero trains connect. Even major sporting complexes are moving out to the airport areas. So you see the medical and wellness centers for medical tourism, the research and technology parks, the university campuses, as well as the exhibition and conference centers, and then the full range of goods production. Let me illustrate very quickly what some of these real estate components look like, beginning with some of my favorite examples as I work around the world. This is a project that I worked on, the Indianapolis Aérotropolis. They developed their new billion-dollar terminal as a central square, as a civic plaza, where ringing the civic plaza are all types of local commercial facilities and eateries, like Indy 500 Authentics, the Indianapolis 500, which is a famous race. It sells all of their products. It's a meet and greet, and people come out there on the weekend to socialize. It's really a civic plaza. Airport hotels increasingly are not hotels. They become virtual corporate headquarters where executives fly in for meetings with their dispersed executives from all over the country. This is the Grand Hyatt at Dallas-Fort Worth, connected to Terminal D. And you talk to Jeff Fagan, the head of DFW, he'll tell you we get actually more money from our business meetings than we do from the overnight guests. So these hotels, these 4- and 5-star airport hotels, with the complete set of meeting rooms and concierge business services, are really taking over corporate functions. And it's just in sales meetings. These are high-level decision makers that fly in with their briefcases and have their meetings, sometimes with an overnight stay, but not much more. So the airport is becoming a corporate headquarters, increasingly. They've also become multimodal office hubs. This is a shot of the square, an amazing facility. 650 meters long, over 2,000 feet for the Americans that are here long, 9 stories high, 2 million square feet overall, 1.5 million in offices, hotels, and associated activities. KPMG, the accounting, auditing, and consulting organization, very large one, just has moved in and has taken 40,000 square meters. That's 400,000 square feet for the European corporate headquarters. What makes this particularly valuable, this amazing structure? 7 minutes walk to the international check-in counters at Frankfurt International Airport. And it's right over the ICE, the intercity train lines. 230 trains, long-distance, higher-speed trains, go underneath, connect, right underneath the square, and the M5 highway is right there. So it's a convergence of multi-modality, a 6-minute walk from the check-in counters at Frankfurt International Airport. So you have the local accessibility, the regional accessibility via rail, and the global accessibility via air. And that's what when I took my course in real estate economics, we were told it was the 3 L's: location, location, location. No more. It's accessibility, accessibility, accessibility. And we have a new metric. It's no longer space and distance, it's time and cost. It's the time and cost of connecting the key nodes in the metropolitan area and connecting those nodes to markets globally. I wish I had more time to go into that model. Amsterdam Schiphol Airport, Eude is here. This is the granddaddy of the airport cities, originally evolved actually in the late 1980s. You could see the Microsoft headquarters there on the bottom. There's 16 regional corporate headquarters at this multimodal urban core, and then it spreads out from Schiphol. You can see the terminal in the upper right. Right here, here in France, Paris Charles de Gaulle, its central business district is an amazing development that continues to expand. Roissy, you could see the figures here, 216,000 square meters of offices, 68,000 square feet of hotels. Continental Square just opened, it's on the bottom there, it's dual. It's going to expand to the north. You're going to have the rail lines come, eventually the express rail line come right to it. It's multimodal. It is going to be a real engine, a real driver of commercial development, not only on the Charles de Gaulle's property, but outward from it. As a matter of fact, you saw the diagram I put before. Take a walk over to the Paris Grand Region exhibition space and look at that layout. And you're going to see that it really is an amazing aerotropolis that is forming there with all of the functions that I described, not only at the center, as you see here, but outward along the expressways and the rail lines. And many of those functions and forms are already in place or will be in place. So Paris Charles de Gaulle is certainly one of the leading aerotropolises in the world, and I'm very impressed with Airports de Paris is doing in ADPI and its development. This is an amazing story because I'm old enough to remember when it opened. This is Washington Dulles, and everyone said it's negative, it's a white elephant. Nobody is going to use that facility. It's too far out. It was 27 miles out. What a mistake we had. Well, it's become not just the driver of the 2 fastest growing counties in the country, Fairfax County and Loudoun County, but that 26-mile strip that you see there has generated over 1 million jobs, most of them in high-paying executive, consulting, various types of producer service functions that are along that Aerotropolis corridor that is actually run by MWA, the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority. They own this corridor and run the corridor and marshal the development along this corridor. It's an amazing story. The Dulles area is named after John Foster Dulles, but it's acquired its own place designation. People say we're going to Dulles. Has more Class A office space than downtown District of Columbia. There are more retail sales in the Dulles region than there is in any other location in the United States except Manhattan, New York City. It's the second largest. So these have become real business magnets and regional economic accelerators, often complementing the downtown and reinforcing the downtown. And I wish I had time to explain that. They don't compete with the downtown. They actually reinforce the development of the city. This is Zuidhaus, I mentioned before, which is the edge city that's 6 minutes from Schiphol's terminal by rail and by automobile or truck. It's the world headquarters of ING and ABN AMRO Bank, 20 million square feet of Class A office space and support services. I remember when talking to a Barclays executive when they were trying to buy ABN AMRO, and he said, one of the reasons we're interested in, we have a heck of a time getting through Heathrow. And you know, this is great accessibility to Amsterdam Schiphol Airport. We're 6 minutes away from that connectivity, and it's very important because we don't cash checks, we make decisions, and we have to meet with our clients. This is this is for the MIPIM people, some of the office rents. We pulled together the data, and the original source of this was DTZ. You see this on your badge that rings it. This is the euros per square meter per year office rents. And you can see the Schiphol central area is among the highest in the Amsterdam region. The highest is Zuidhaus, this new downtown that's 6 minutes away from Schiphol Airport. Some new developments occurring in the central station area, good returns, good rates, but not as high as the Schiphol area or central area or Zuidhaus. The central city, also up there, but not quite with the Schiphol central area, which is mainly the complex I showed you on the PowerPoint, and then an upper level office suburb, Amstelveen. But again, you can see the importance of these areas. This is the industrial property rents, comparing the Schiphol area with Amsterdam, The Hague, and Rotterdam. And all I'll say here, because I have to move on, is that the market is speaking. At least in the Amsterdam area. Matter of fact, the most valuable industrial land in the world is in the West End of London, next to Heathrow. 200 euros per square meter per year on a standardized basis. So these airport areas have become very, very valuable. New cities are developing. This is New Songdo IDB. Built by corporations for corporations. An amazing city, the size of downtown Boston, being built in 15 years. It's almost finished by Gale International out of New York and POSCO, which is South Korea's largest steel producer. The Korean government, South Korean government, put in the infrastructure, including that bridge that connects it to Incheon International Airport, and Gale and POSCO built the vertical, the commercial infrastructure. This is what it looks like now if you were to go there now. This is a rendering, but this is exactly what it looks like with the Central Park and the canals, and they brought in planners from all over the world. This model can be replicated elsewhere and scaled around the world. So what are my concluding points? Airports and their immediate environs have become, their immediate areas have become as much destinations as place of departure. People near and far converge on airport cities and aerotropolises to conduct business, meet, exchange knowledge, be entertained, shop, eat, and sleep without going more than 15 minutes from the airport. It's become a second downtown for many, many metropolitan areas, reinforcing rather than competing with that downtown. For the MIPIM people, real estate investors and developers who recognize this megatrend can select strategic sites on or near gateway airports and position their investment to be leveraged by growing air commerce, the statistics that I just gave you. You have a remarkable opportunity. The fifth wave is very big and very strong. You need to write it. So I have a video, but I don't want to bump into other people's time. At the end, if there's time and questions, I'll show the video. But let me just thank you for your attention and time. And if you have any questions, please contact me at the email address here. The video is on there, and the book Aerotropolis and Global Airport Cities, if any of you have interest in reading it. They're all on the Aerotropolis website. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Reed, is the Atlanta airport city? Will you respond? Yeah, it's your turn.
I will tell you, I could have listened to Professor Kasarda all day. That was all good news for Atlanta. So I'm really excited to be here with you and to be here with all of the panelists here. I'm excited to have this conversation because the city of Atlanta as the professor appropriately acknowledged, before it was ever Atlanta, it was a city called Terminus. And it is one of the few American cities ever to be burned completely to the ground and destroyed entirely. And that was because of its importance as a logistics hub during the American Civil War. So General Sherman, in service of President Lincoln, burned the city to the ground. So the symbol of our city is the phoenix. And that really does go to the core of why I believe that for 15 years in a row, Atlanta has had the most successful passenger airport on the planet Earth every single year. Just 2 months ago, it was announced that once again we had the busiest passenger airport, hosting 95 million passengers last year. To give you some order of magnitude, Beijing's airport, which has been experiencing about 6% growth, hosted 14 million less passengers than Hartsfield-Jackson, and we had about 3.5% growth most recently. And we expect for our trajectory to continue and for us to continue to be the dominant airport in the world into the next decade. And it really goes back to two very simple decisions. I think it's so appropriate that we're talking right now because we're getting ready to go into another great era around airports as other parts of the world that are advancing decide to move about from places like China and India and Russia and all of the rest. There was a mayor, a man named William Hartsfield, who gambled. He took a racetrack that really was just this terrible patch of dirt. And then there was a guy named C. Woolman, who was the founder of Delta Airlines, and he had a crop dusting airline, and he was in Monroe, Louisiana. Well, these two gentlemen who had great ambitions, one for his company and the other for his city, they met, and Mayor Hartsfield made the decision that in addition to converting the racetrack into an airport, that he was going to give the president of Delta a long-term lease, more than 20 years, for almost $1. So as politics go, the mayor got beat. People said it was a terrible decision. Delta Airlines relocated to Atlanta, and really the rest is kind of history. Delta Airlines has been fundamental to the history of the city of Atlanta. And with its growth, Atlanta has grown. Now there's some good news there because that mayor that got beat got his job back because people didn't like the guy that replaced him, so he didn't completely lose. And Hartsfield-Jackson Airport is named in his honor today. What has it meant for the people of Atlanta? In the last 50 years, there really is no reason for the city of Atlanta to be one of the most important cities in the United States. We don't have beautiful mountain vistas. We have no Great Lakes, no wonderful bodies of water. We have no ocean access. We're really a patch of dirt in a rather inconvenient place in a southern state. So, but for some reason, and I believe it's primarily because of our access to the rest of the country, people have moved to the metropolitan Atlanta region in droves. So over the last 10 years, the metropolitan Atlanta region was the third fastest growing area in the United States of America. And I believe that that goes to the fact that you have national and international connectivity. From Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, you can reach 80% of the population of the United States of America, 82% of the GDP of the United States of America, and you can reach 50 international destinations. Now, my view of the world is that people now want to go home. You know, there used to be a time when we took international trips and we wanted to stay and we got excited and we were looking forward to visit these amazing cities. Now people want to get to the city, have a pleasant experience, and go home. So I believe that Atlanta is going to continue to thrive because you can come to Atlanta and access the rest of the United States of America and get back home internationally in a faster fashion than you can with any other airport in the United States. And I'll tell you why. We just completed investing $1.5 billion in 12 new international gates, and people thought that we were absolutely crazy. We opened those international gates last year. Every single one of them is filled, and the new international terminal had a monthly payroll during its construction of between $50 to $70 million, pumping jobs into our construction economy during the worst economy that the United States had had in 80 years. 58,000 people come to work on the campus of Hartsfield-Jackson Airport every single day. 350,000 well-paying jobs, among the highest jobs in the state of Georgia, a state that has 10 million people derive their livelihoods from Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. Now, what most folks don't know is our airport is wholly owned by the city of Atlanta. So that means that the boss of the airport is me. And I hire a gentleman whose name is Lewis Miller, and that individual performs at the pleasure of the mayor of Atlanta. And I think that that has contributed a great deal to the success of the airport, because in Atlanta and in Georgia, it is undeniable what the airport has done for us. You might say, what do you mean? Fortune magazine just came out with their new list of Fortune 500 American companies. The city of Atlanta, which was an afterthought 50 years ago, has the third largest concentration of Fortune 500 companies in its metro region. If you talk to the CEOs of all of those businesses, they will share with you that a core ingredient to their success has been Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. I would also commend that you look at the nature of those businesses. UPS, an Atlanta business, also happens to be a global company. Delta Airlines, obviously an Atlanta business, but a global company, a partner of Air France, a partner of KLM. If you look at Coca-Cola, in 198 countries around the globe, but Muhtar Kent, the chairman of Coca-Cola, sits in Atlanta and reaches the world from Atlanta. If you look at Turner Broadcasting, which was really built by a cowboy-like character named Ted Turner, CNN is in almost every important hotel room across the globe. Its home is Atlanta. So what's the link? The link is that we have had entrepreneurs in the city of Atlanta that could build their ideas and build their businesses and then move to other parts of the world in a fashion that is comfortable and predictable. Now, how does it affect our folks? The professor made an important comment about Mayor Bloomberg. Mayor Michael Bloomberg is a very good friend of mine. He gave me some advice that I could not achieve. He said it's much better to be a mayor once you become a billionaire first. It's a lot more fun that way. So I wasn't able to do that. But I'll tell you what, the city of New York, which is one of the leading tourism cities in the world, a great city, last year they hosted 50,400,000 guests. Last year, the city of Atlanta hosted 39 million guests. We expect to host 40 million guests this year. Now, I know you all are sitting there thinking, now, how in the world can that be? It is my intention to close that tourism gap between the city of Atlanta and New York. The other point I would say is this. Population is following airport growth and development. In the United States of America, the North and Midwest, what we refer to as the Rust Belt, are losing population to the western part of our country and to the southern part of our country. So I wake up every single day with the intention of making sure that Atlanta is the most important city in the South, the dominant economy in the South. Because if I am at the center of action in the fastest growing part of the United States, and if I have a view of the world that is open, I believe that folks like you and who attend conferences like this will want to do business with Atlanta because you can access the rest of the country in an affordable, efficient fashion. And that's why I decided to partner with Charles de Gaulle Airport. We have a memorandum of understanding between our airports, because I think that they're doing an exceptional job developing the Aérotropolis concept. And I think that we have good advice for them with regard to increasing overall productivity of the airport. I also think, as the mayor of an American city, that it is extremely helpful to have a European view of a great world-class city, which I believe that Paris is. So I think that as the mayor of the city, I benefit greatly from getting a European view, because I intend to make the city of Atlanta one of the leading cities in the world. We're taking concrete steps every day to make the city of Atlanta the logistics center for the Western Hemisphere. So we're growing air cargo at more than 10% year over year, every year I have been mayor, with the exception of the last 6 months when our air cargo took a hit. We're now back up 5%. I personally recruit air cargo companies because I think that it's ridiculous to be #1 in passenger service and not in the top 10 in terms of air cargo. So it is my intention to move into the air cargo space, not because it's so profitable for our airport, but because I like the array of jobs that is generated related to air cargo. You have blue-collar jobs, you have mid-level jobs, you have coder jobs, you have jobs for a wide variety of your population, and that dovetails nicely with our convention and tourism business. Our convention and tourism business accounts for $10 billion a year in the city of Atlanta and our region. It employs more than 239,000 individuals. Now, we've actually been learning from the professor, which is why when the Ford Motor Company auto plant closed, I bought it. So I made the decision to buy the land that the Ford Motor Company used to sit on, and today, the new headquarters for Porsche North America is going to replace that. So what used to be one Ford Drive is now one Porsche Drive. And Porsche North America is building a $100 million headquarters that's going to house 400 employees. But the cool part for me is that they're going to have a Porsche test track on the campus there that I hope they'll allow me to take my old beat-up car out on a bit. But it's my hope that if you're in the United States and you want to custom design your own Porsche, you'll be able to fly into Hartsfield-Jackson, where all of the related vehicles will be a Porsche car of some kind. You'll see an iconic brand associated with the most successful passenger airport on Earth. And since we have made the deal with Porsche, we've attracted 2 hotels to the site, Professor, and we're in negotiations with 3 new companies to come to that campus. So the presentation that you heard around an Aérotropolis is absolutely real. It's just something that we did not focus on in the city because our downtown is so close to Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. The way our city is laid out, you can be in the heart of downtown Atlanta in somewhere between 13 and 17 minutes, depending on traffic. So the thought of the Aérotropolis took longer to take hold in the city of Atlanta. In summation, what I would share with you is that this is a space that you should bet on for your folks. If you want to make sure that your position in the economy is preserved and expanded, you're going to have to be in the airport and the infrastructure business. And the good thing about it is, once you make this investment, because of the tough economic times that governments are facing, they cannot be replicated. So when you look at the city of Atlanta and Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, because of the financial constraints that we have in the United States of America, no other mayor in America can raise his hand and say, I'm going to build an airport that competes with the city of Atlanta. And almost every time we win an important event in the city, whether it's the Super Bowl or all-star events or conventions, the #1 reason that we are selected, including the 1996 Olympic Games, is because of our transportation infrastructure. So if you don't remember anything else I said, Bet on that, ladies and gentlemen. I've spent the last year of my life trying to have President Obama deepen the port of Savannah, which is 4 hours away from Atlanta. And that's because I understand that great cities have great seaports. And if I don't have one that's right next to Atlanta, I'm going to get the closest one I can. So I've been advocating to get that seaport deepened. I learned that lesson from visiting the great cities of Europe and other parts of the world. And I also want you to know this. We have an openness in Atlanta. What I think my colleagues at Charles de Gaulle would share is that we enjoy the exchange. We love learning new things in Atlanta because we are a young city, but we are an ambitious city that has traveled a great distance from the town that was burned down so many years ago. So thank you for your time and your attention.
Thank you very much. We'll take the advice of, the good thing about infrastructure for Paris and Charles de Gaulle. I now introduce Mr. Gérard Eude, who just landed, fortunately. He's the Vice President of Seine-et-Marne District in charge of economic development. He will describe the Paris Charles de Gaulle's territory and the way we are doing, I hope, exceptional job, as you said. Thank you.
Thank you. I will try to describe, and thank you for the delay. My English is not so fluent as the previous speaker, so I would like to apologize for that. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming on a special thank to all Upstart Paris guests who have come from abroad. I am extremely pleased to deliver a speech on behalf of the partners of Upstart Paris Alliance in order to present the Greater Roissy area, which is the area surrounding the Paris Charles de Gaulle International Airport. First of all, let me give you an overview of the Greater Roissy area as an economic engine, an economic driver of the Paris region. The Greater Roissy Airport area has become a strong economic engine for the Paris region and France. It is the major transport cluster of the Paris region. Did you know that 250,000 jobs are generated in the whole Paris region by the presence of the Paris Charles de Gaulle International Airport and the companies working for it? Some of them are directly generated by the airport, but some of them are generated by activities that are not directly connected to the airport. And the surrounding areas are also directly involved. This is an economic driver that is still able to create growth and prosperity. The airport is an economic engine and a driver, of course, for the Paris region's economy, but also for the local economy. And also, we think, for the European economy, thanks for that to the SkyTeam hub. This area also boasts major regional facilities of international stature in business, trade shows, and tourism. Currently, we think that the Greater Roissy Airport area has a good balance between traffic growth on one side and noise exposure and environment on the other side, between regional and local benefits, between final destination for business and tourism and a place for transit, that's the hub function, between providing enough slots to the leading airline alliance, SkyTeam, and other airlines, between passenger and cargo traffic, between territorial identity and diversity of business and housing environments, between historical and more recent land uses, and last, between traditional and modern landscape and heritage. As Vice President, of the General Council of Seine et Marne, and also as president of the Economic Development Agency of Seine et Marne, and member of board of directors of Upstart Paris, I think it is particularly important to make sure our airport area are attracting a lot of people and new businesses that bring jobs and wealth to the region. Upstart Paris was created on the basis of this idea to promote the Greater Roissy area. The alliance that now gathers 23 private and public partners is a brand and a strongly bounded collectivity and community that effectively give value to the airport area on an international level. But let me now highlight the main assets of the Greater Roissy area. What Greater Roissy area is about is larger than the airport city itself. It concerns the whole area around the airport, which is one of the most dynamic clusters in France and in Europe. First of all, a dense concentration of Europe's leading transport infrastructures. Paris-Charles de Gaulle ranks currently second in Europe for passenger traffic, with 21 million passengers last year. Paris-Charles de Gaulle is also the first in Europe for cargo and mail traffic, and is the main hub for FedEx in Europe. Le Bourget, close to Roissy, is the first airport in Europe for business aviation. In this area, you can also benefit from a high-speed railway network, an intermodal connectivity with the Seine axis, a direct accessibility to the core city center, and last but not least, a major automatic train project called Grand Paris Express. Now called the new Grand Paris Express, it's a major step in the development of the Paris region. At the heart of the Paris region, it's an ambitious plan for 160 kilometers, that means 100 miles, automatic fast metro network that will link the cities, suburbs, and connect the Paris region with the Paris-Orly and Paris-Charles de Gaulle airport, as well as major business districts and peripheral high-speed rail station. Next, the Greater Roissy airport area has some important territorial axes. As Professor Kasarda probably said, and as you will see, there is a lot of projects at once on the airport city. Just around the airport, but also on the airport corridor, that is between the airport corridor, it's the territory between the airport and the Paris center, and also in the backside of the airport. At first, there is the airport city at the heart of the airport area, and in order to reinforce the center functions of this airport area, ambitious shopping facilities and offices are currently under construction within the airport city. For example, Roissy Pole is the largest airport city development in Europe, with a lot of planned developments for offices and hotels in the heart of the airport city. Aéroville, at the entrance of the airport city, will be one of the biggest shopping malls in the Paris region and will host 200 shops and 8 new cinemas. Next, the airport corridor is an important linkage between Paris-Bourget Business Airport and Paris-Charles de Gaulle Airport. The northeast corridor can be characterized as axis for multifunctional development and landscape. To reinforce and boost the capacity to host international events and international trade functions close to the airport, the new International Trade Center, a 13-hectare integrated business and convention complex, the only one of this kind in Europe. This new International Trade Center will be created, and the already existing Paris Nord Villepinte Exhibition Center will be extended. In order to to increase the capacity to accommodate high added value businesses in different kinds of sectors, there are two ambitious business parks to be developed. The Triangle de Gonesse, the Triangle of Gonesse, a 280 hectares area available for development that is a unique potential in the Paris region. For international trade, business relationships, applied research, services, and technology, with a high level of environmental quality. The Triangle de Gonesse hosts also a completely new large-scale urban resort called Aérotropolis that will be realized in order to reinforce the gateway function to the Paris region, France, and Europe. This is a project designed by the Auchan Group, which represents one of the French leading private investment projects of the decade. Next, other examples of international business park project, Aérotropolis Paris, a high value added multifunctional international business park developed on 150 hectares with a goal to create thousands of jobs. Finally, in order to develop multimodal transport connectivity for international cargo and high added value, the local authorities, Aéroports de Paris, and major air freight operators took the decision to pool their resources and efforts that result in CAREX. The concept of CAREX is to use the European high-speed rail network to carry air freight pallets and containers over distances of between 300 and 800 kilometers. As you can see, there are lots of innovative and ambitious projects in this greater Roissy area, with strong appeal at the European and global levels, and it is important to note the multi-sector aspects of this provision of real estate projects: offices, hotels, leisure, shopping, logistics, business parks, convention center, and so on. But the coordination of all these projects requires improvement in the governance of the greater Roissy airport area. It's more difficult than in Atlanta, where the airport is the proprietary of the city. Various formal or informal governance frameworks have been created over the last years, and the Upstart Paris Alliance is an important example of this. The specific goals of Upstart Paris is to improve the international visibility of Greater Roissy and to offer a wide range of free, confidential, and bespoke services to companies seeking to expand, to move, or to set up their business in this area. The different public and private partners of Upstart Paris are working more and more together and are creating a shared vision on the future of the Greater Roissy Airport area. This alliance was founded in 2009 and has organized around 30 actions coordinated by the Paris Regional Economic Development Agency. An international airport is one of the main engines for the development of a territory, with the condition that this development is governed, balanced, and taught on an urban scale. Among our actions, I would like to take advantage of the presence of Mayor Eude to emphasize the Memorandum of Understanding signed in July 2011 between the Greater Roissy and the Greater Atlanta. This MOU aims to develop the two airport areas and focuses on coast interest of promotion actions in favor of business and the exchange of best practices concerning both environmental and social aspects. The two airport areas represent today two successful hubs, fueled by the successful partnership of Delta Airlines with Air France KLM, and also the partnership of the city of Atlanta and the Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport with the Upstart Paris Alliance. To conclude, during the MIPIM, make sure you look at all of the settlement opportunities on the numerous development projects in Greater Roissy. Many upstart Paris partners are exhibitors. Aéroport de Paris, the Paris Région Économique Développement Agency, the Plaine de France Local Planning and Development Authority, the Expansion Economic Committee of Val d'Oise, and Seine Development Agency. Meet us at the Paris Region Pavilion at Marina Hall, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Eude. I would like to thank all the speakers for their bright speeches, and I kindly invite you to the cocktail in the Paris region tent, just on the beach. Thank you.